Hey guys, it's quote unquote your boy, Baldface8020, back again with another great commentary. So in this video, we're back in the office with Uncle Z, and we're getting as close as you're probably ever going to see as a mea culpa from Casey regarding basically everything he's taught. Um, Now, I don't know if he's deleted all the videos of his old videos that show like what he used to teach. Um, and I hope that doesn't mean he's going to be coming after my videos eventually, because if they're showing evidence of what he used to promote. Um, but I'm here to praise Casey, not to bury him. He, it's easy to forget with Casey, um, that he's a young guy. I think he's only 26, and I saw Casey as it's easy to see Casey because he's not very likable and he's not very smart, and just assume that like this is who he is, like who we see on camera is who he is and who he's always going to be. But when you think about it, think about what we have seen of Casey over the years, including Casey's talked about his younger self. I've even have a video up of Casey before the video is entitled something like Casey before the red pill broke his brain, and that he's young and he's still growing. Like, remember, like, Kino Body was like a super weirdo douche when he was 24. And I don't know, like, and if you see Kino now, like, do I like him? Not really, but he has kind of an offbeat charm, and he's not like as ridiculous as he used to be when he came on the scene. He at least, whether you like him or not, he turned into a real person. And this is the video where you start to see Casey's really showing signs of growth. And I mean, that's kind of really all I have to say about that. You think that I don't want to give the guy too much credit, but it is, on one hand, I'm always impressed when people change. On the other hand, I don't know, it's not really changing if you're just growing up. And I know people grow up slower these days, and you have to keep in mind Casey didn't necessarily have the best influences. Like, I mean, he was obviously very socially awkward and isolated as a kid. And like I said, wasn't good in that. The only sport that I think he competed in was cross country, because he had a natural, like, real, like, ecto frame, and he's from North Dakota, where everybody's tall and strong, and didn't have a lot of friends. You can tell his dad's a weirdo, and he didn't fit in. So he's really had to kind of figure out things on his own, and what he found was the internet, where he found like a lot of crappy red pill advice. So then he goes and starts hitting the gym, and at the same time he hits a growth spurt, and Casey's too stupid to realize that he did hit a growth spurt, or he thinks the growth spurt came from him hitting the gym. And all of a sudden he turns into a man, kind of like if you see Anthony Michael Hall when he was 16, he was a nerd. He was always cast as the nerd in movies. 2 years later, he was Chad. Casey's not really Chad. I mean, he's only 5'10". He's not particularly handsome, but he turned into a Chad light, and a guy who all of a sudden had women be interested in him. And then he's ambitious. He talks about it in this thing. So he's had to figure out a lot of stuff on his own. And and that's kind of like, I mean, I'm a lot different than I was when I was 24. I mean, I was never as crazy as cringe as Casey, but then again, I'm a lot smarter than he is, and I've also had better influences. And I don't have some of like I don't know if Casey has just some kind of personality problems, or he's just weird, or what. But Casey, I mean, like I said, Casey had to figure it out all on his own, and so it's impressive that he changed. But I'll stop babbling. Let's let Casey speak for himself. Oops. Let's move this out of the way. There we go. So anyway, this video is titled "Women Don't Care About Your Masculine Frame." This is a guy who made video after video talking about frame, a few videos that I responded to. But so here we go. We're about 2 minutes into the video. Here's what he says now.
They're also focused on ways they can put on some sort of facade to be entertaining or to get the other person hooked and locked in, and it just doesn't work that way. This would be so much easier. All of your guys' dating lives would be so easier if you dropped all of these personas and you actually became the package.
Okay, so you again, it's Casey, so baby steps. Basically, Casey's thesis now is sort of a almost a quasi black pill. It's not really because like a true black pill view of it would say that women are basically attracted to your height and your looks. That's an oversimplification, but there's a lot to it. And the and Casey, and so really your personality. Black pill orthodoxy says personality doesn't matter. That is, again, that's not just a slight exaggeration; it's a big exaggeration. But it would say that anything like game is a waste of time. Like women are basically, she's either into you or she isn't. And if she's into you, you don't need to do the game shit. And if she's not into you, doesn't matter how confident or alpha you are, it's not going to work. That's kind of what Casey's saying, except Casey's saying that instead of you need to be Chad, Casey's saying you need to be successful. You need to be a successful man. Now, some of you younger guys may be like doing an extra eye roll at that. But here, the thing you need to understand is Casey's 26. By the time you get into the mid-20s, look, women are always going to like Chads, okay? At any age, okay? Even if they're 90, they like Chad. But as women get older and they start actually explicitly thinking they're looking for a relationship, especially if they've been burned a couple of times, there are certain things that they're looking for. Like as a long-term guy, they're not really interested in being with Chad long-term if Chad's an alcoholic who can't hold a job. They're interested in somebody who's going to be able to give them a certain lifestyle and, pay for their kids to go to private school and shit like that. Again, I know I'm exaggerating here. It depends on the class and stuff like that, but that really is an issue. So it's not like Casey's completely baseless, but I think he's wrong. I just don't think he's as wrong as some of my viewers probably do.
That women are attracted to. You actually became full stack. The reason why this rubs me the wrong way is because many of the, there's like this common theme in a lot of the dating content out there and a lot of the advice from men that they say you shouldn't treat women good, or you should give a woman a lot of indecisiveness when it comes to where you stand with her and all this shit. And it's such bullshit.
Well, that's not something you ever expected to hear from Casey, is it?
Those types of tactics are for guys who have not became the total package. Those types of tactics are for guys who have not became full stack.
Yeah, I think this has always been a misunderstanding. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys all know this. I noticed this before there was a red pill. And by the way, I got sort of influenced and taken in by the red pill too. I saw guys in high school treat girls like crap and see those girls love it and come back for more. But to me and to everybody back then, it was just understood that there's basically two times where that happens. One is if they were already in a relationship and she's in love with him. If she's in love with him, she'll put up with him smacking her around, let alone him just being a jerk. But there's another one that everybody saw, and that was just because he's Chad. I mean, I saw it so many times. Chad be like the biggest dog to these girls, and they would just keep coming back, and they never gave up. Well, I mean, they would eventually, but see, again, so I'm talking about the late '90s, early aughts. That was common sense. Then PUAs and the red pill got out there, and all of a sudden people started saying that no, women actually like that kind of treatment. That attracts women. And like I said, I kind of fell for it a little bit too. I never really tried to implement it because one, I never had the opportunity to. Two, I never would have been able to take myself seriously doing it. It just doesn't fit my personality. And three, even if I could, I'm just not trying to hurt anybody, but just because I didn't like try to implement it doesn't mean I didn't think that there was something to it. And the again, so somebody like me who supposedly who you think that would have even known better, and so but that's what people said. Like, you have to actually doing that stuff. So, but because to me as a kid, I even remember talking about this, like as a younger man, and saying like, yeah, those guys get away with doing that because they're good-looking guys, but the women don't actually like that treatment. And the truth is actually mostly with that, but there's a little bit of kernel of truth to the red pill. I do think that especially young women do kind of like the poor treatment if it comes from Chad. Not too much, but at least a little bit of it. I think they like that. I don't think they want it from normie guys. Yeah, so the tactics are going to be useless at best and counterproductive at worst. And if you're Chad, you can basically be as nice a guy as you want. I mean, honestly, even then, sometimes it can cause you problems. But really, in a relationship, it's not too big a deal as long as you're just not like a complete ridiculous pushover. You can be a nice guy without being a pushover, but that's a different thing.
And it has nothing to do with your masculinity. It has everything to do with actually being an attractive man. You cannot put on a frame or a persona. You have to actually become the byproduct of what success is and what success looks like.
So basically, it's, Marlon Brando's method acting over the kind of stage acting that was big before Marlon Brando. Not saying Marlon Brando invented it, but I guess he was probably the first popular one to see it, first popularized version to see it. Yeah, yeah, I think it's true. I guess where I would disagree with Casey, and I'm sure you guys would too, is the idea that you really can become an attractive man. I don't think it's probably not going to happen. You might be able to attract a given woman or maybe several women, but to be a guy who's just generally attractive to women, that's mainly a matter of looks. And really, personality is just not that big a deal on that front.
Looks like a lot of guys are creating these toxic relationships by treating women like shit. They're thinking that you have to pursue for sex, and once you get sex, you're supposed to pull away completely, and you don't have to be available, and all of this bullshit, and it's just not true.
So basically, Casey, this is Casey essentially admitting in so many words, I fucked up with Brittany. I ruined my relationship with Brittany. And seeing this has got me to think a little bit more like about Casey. Like, I just assumed Casey was a narcissist. And after seeing this video, I don't think that's true. Another thing about Casey is I don't think that Casey ever had an interest in womanizing. Which is, Cole's like come out and said that he didn't. I think Casey's, and you could actually hear it in what Casey was saying in his earlier videos. But I didn't make too much of it because I just thought it was just Casey being a weirdo. But like, for Casey, I think the womanizing he engaged in was like some weird, like, proof of himself that he had masculinity or that he was attractive. I think that Casey always wanted to be in a monogamous relationship and have an emotional connection. Now, it's hard to imagine. So you think like, well, how could Casey have an emotional connection with anybody? He's an idiot. Well, look, even idiots can have emotional connections. You don't have to be smart to have an emotional connection with somebody. And Casey wanted that simple monogamous life. That simple monogamous. I don't know if he really wants family life. He probably does. But at least at this stage in his life, he really does want to be. He probably doesn't want kids right this second, but he does want to, right now at least, be in, even if he's not looking to have kids yet, he wants to be in, or get married yet even, he wants to be in a committed monogamous relationship. He wants what he had with Brittany, with a real commitment and a real emotional connection. And, some guys, I was thinking about it, being aromantic myself. I actually think there are more aromantic people than is recognized. Because I think that there's a lot of people who are basically aromantic but they still have a drive to be in a relationship. So like they don't feel strong romantic feelings, but they still want to be in a relationship. I think that that's probably really common. I mean, not. I don't think it's the norm, but I think it's fairly common. I think what makes me weird is that it's not that I don't have romantic feelings that prevents me from being in a relationship. Um, Although I don't. But I know, like I said, I did have at least two crushes on girls when I was a kid. They were in fifth and sixth grade, but still, it did happen. So I know that I'm physically capable of it. Um, for me, it's just that the idea of being in a relationship is repulsive to me. I just don't want to be in a relationship, which kind of makes me wonder if there's people who are not aromantic, but but like they have romantic feelings, but they still don't want to be in a relationship. They want to have a romantic connection, but not actually share a life with somebody. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that exists too. But anyway, but Casey though is neither of those things. I don't think Casey is aromantic or a relationship. See, I thought Casey was a guy who either had the instinct to be in a relationship, um, or he just needed it as part of his self-image, like to prove that he made it. Um, but didn't actually have strong romantic feelings because he's a narcissist. Now I don't think that's true. I think Casey is a romantic type. I think he does want romance, like a romantic relationship, and he wants to be in a relationship. They're both very strong drives for him. He's not in one right now, and he might not find one like Brittany, or at least maybe not for a while. I hope he does. I hope he does. But it sounds like Brittany breaking up with him was the best thing that ever happened to him. It caused him to snap out of it. Then again, he also got older. Plus, he's been hanging out with Cole, which maybe has brought him to reality a little bit more. But yeah, we'll continue.
Guys who have to do that are guys who A, probably don't have their life together, B, they don't know what else to do, or C, they've been heartbroken, confused, and jaded in the past, so what they do now is they take it out on all of their other future relationships. I will give you an example.
On
Yeah,
every
you can give us an
vacation at a
example, right?
verbal
How about
home,
you and
there's
Brittany?
someone like you
But anyway, let's.
who reunited the family.
Sorry about that.
The point that I'm at in life right now at 26, I could be cool as a cucumber on every date I go on. I could be completely sweet. I could be a total gentleman. I could reply to every text, show enthusiasm. Okay? Be excited to occasionally talk to the girl. Have downtime and share wonderful romantic experiences with a woman. And what happens is pullbacks, tests, issues don't happen. And the reason why is because when you're a man with your life.
Yeah. Okay, great. Again, Casey's shown growth. Can't imagine him having said that before. Glad he had this eureka epiphany. I'm going to actually have to quibble from the other side, though, because Casey himself, in his earlier incarnation, when he was giving advice to married guys, a lot of those were guys who were doing that romantic stuff, and they were the full package. I mean, these were self-made, successful guys, and their wives were pulling back from them and treating them like shit, and then implementing Casey's, red pill shit actually helped save their relationships, at least in the short term. We have multiple testimonials of it. I don't know if they're still up. They were very difficult to watch. They were cringe as fuck. But even still, there really is something to that. Now, again, you don't want to take it to some spurgy red pill, treat her poorly type thing. But a lot of these guys really did, maybe they had a backbone in real life, but with women, especially the women who they were in relationships with, they didn't. And, again, they didn't necessarily need all the shit Casey showed them, but they did need to start showing some self-respect and standing up for themselves. Women cannot maintain attraction to a man who they don't respect. And nobody's going to respect you if you don't respect yourself. So if you respect yourself, that's good. And maybe Casey's going to say well, as long as you're still as long as you have self-respect and have some boundaries, then that's okay. But that's but Casey seems to be saying that as long as you are this self-made man, that women won't give you shit. Women who you're in a relationship won't test you or give you shit. Some women won't. A lot of women will. That's just life.
Life together, the woman actually gets a strong sense that you're not the type that wants toxicity or turmoil. And she can also probably tell that your time is valued because you put it in the right spots in order to gain real life success. Yes, I'm talking about financially. I don't think as many dating gurus or as many people out there are telling you that what's actually important in life is you need to become financially successful, you need to become financially free, and you cannot be a slave. You have to be able to live life on your own terms. So imagine.
Yeah, and this is the other thing about Casey. So basically what Casey is shifting his business model away from full stack masculinity type shit. I mean, he's still going to talk about full stack, but instead of like, I mean, I don't even know if he does masculine behavioral therapy anymore. I haven't heard him mention it in a while. But basically, masculine behavioral therapy was all about developing your masculine frame. And now he's realized that's nonsense. So what he's doing now is he's trying to teach people how to make money. And is he going to be successful with it? I don't know. But he's trying to create a real community and networking thing. And look, maybe it will help some guys. But the bottom line is, at least he's trying. At least he's trying to have like value and stuff. Because like when I was trying to make it as an entrepreneur, I could really have used a community and especially a mentor to help me out, because I certainly didn't figure it out by myself, because I just, all I ended up doing was losing a whole ton of money, because I'm really not a natural entrepreneur type. And Casey, for all his flaws, is a natural entrepreneur type. Again, he's been given bad advice. He got hooked into those Sam Ovens types, but maybe he'll branch out and actually do real stuff. And then now he's, trying to help other guys, learn how to make money. But Casey's definitely wrong if he's thinking that, like, if he takes some incel type guy and then has him hit the gym plus teaches him how to make money, that guy's going to suddenly be successful with women. I mean, he'll attract some gold digger. Let me put it this way: you definitely improve your options. You definitely improve your odds. So I'll give him that. It will improve your odds. Is it necessarily going to lead to romantic success? No, it's not. But it's so much better than all the other advice out there, and it may end up working for some people.
Imagine this. Imagine you're a woman and you turn up to a date. You see a guy completely living life on his own terms. You see a guy completely financially free. You see a guy who has genuine interest in that girl. And she sees a guy who has his life together, has his house together, maybe has resources for himself, is well connected, has high connections, has high social circle, all of these things. Do you think that woman doesn't know deep down that that's a genuinely solid dude? Do you think that she's going to try to make him jump through hoops? She will understand in a quick hurry that this type of man is not going to put up with any of that. And here's what happens. When you actually become successful, when you actually become full stack, you can go into these interactions with women and be completely genuine. And because you're not putting on a facade, because you're not putting on a persona, because you're not trying to hold this masculine frame and be something that you're not, her guard goes down and she's relaxed. And all of a sudden, she genuinely wants to be beside you. And you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Might be overstating your case. You're definitely going to, like I said earlier, you're definitely going to improve your odds, if you're successful. Especially if you're successful, if you have a lot of money, because there's kind of like a rarity thing. Okay, like, even like if you have a lot of money, you're kind of rare just because not a lot of guys do have a lot of money. So like all of a sudden, like just like a girl who maybe she herself doesn't care that much about height, but there's a huge status thing to being with a guy who's 6'5", being with a guy who's super rich, is something. And women want to be wanted and be able to get guys who are rare, who are hard to get. So there are a lot of reasons that, money can be attractive to women. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to get put through the ringer and that she's not going to beta bucks you, because I've seen it happen. You know, I wouldn't like become obsessed with it like some guys do, like, and be super paranoid. But the it's like yeah, I don't know. I think what you might see a lot of is, let's say you're a guy who's always failed with women. Okay, you've always been a flap with women. You're nothing special to look at, but you work with Casey or whatever, and all of a sudden you've made a lot of money and you're successful. There will be a lot of women who I think who will kind of, you know, sort of like be like nice to you or whatever, or really feminine around you while they're in campaign mode. But once they get you, if they still don't respect you and they still think you're beneath them, then the real them comes out. And if your personality is still, a weak beta pushover on the inside, then that could lead to strain in the relationship. But I don't know. So I hear where I mean, Casey definitely has a point. He has a point, and he's more accurate than he's been in the past, but he might be oversimplifying a bit.
And you can actually command the type of respect out of anybody, not just women, but anybody, because you carry your own sort of self with that default respect in the first place. Here's what will happen when men.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine, like, me as, because I think about it like for me, right? Let's say I will like try to took another shot at entrepreneurship and made a lot of money. And am I, like, because I'm successful now, going to be able to command a lot of respect? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And I'm not trying to put myself down. But it's just that, like, I mean, physically, I'm not very imposing, which is part of respect. It's not everything. It's definitely not everything. I've seen people who are even physically less imposing than me who could still command respect. The thing is, those people were able to command respect when they were broke too, because they were always, like, I mean, for lack of a better word, an alpha underneath. Sure, an alpha in, a shitty body, but an alpha nonetheless. And they do exist, regardless, despite what black pillars tell you. And me, it doesn't matter how much success I have, right? I mean, I'm always going to be a beta, and people are always going to be able to pick it up, because that's just who I am. Again, I think Casey's overstating his case.
And when men are actually high value, when men are actually full stack, you get to have amazing experiences with women. You don't have to put on any facades or any personas. You can be romantic with women. You can be intimate.
Seeing this part of the video really made me feel bad. It really made me feel bad, because it made me feel like such a freak. Like, even Casey Zander wants this. Like, wants these romantic connections, and I don't. And it makes me like wonder, like, what's wrong with me. And like, maybe this is gonna sound kind of heartless, but like, some of you guys who really do want love and can't find it, sometimes I feel jealous of you guys. And because at least you want it. And I don't know, like, so I don't know what's wrong with me, like, why I don't. And like, I definitely wasn't expecting to see Casey, of all people. Sounds like he really wants to find love. I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Intimate with women. You can even be nice to women, dare I say it. You can be a nice guy to women, and you can still have them respect you.
So people ask me all the time about Umzu and why Umzu exists, and they're actually blown away 100% of the time when they hear that.
Because here's the difference. There's a difference between being a guy who can do all of those things and a guy who's weak. Here's what will happen. If I'm that way towards a woman and I notice any sort of If anybody, a guy or girl, is rude to me, mean to me, starts giving me drama and turmoil for no reason, I'm going to just not reply. I'm not going to get
Bravo. Very well said, Casey. It's like, I mean, because I remember when I was a kid, and when you're kids, you're getting these conflicting messages from adults. Sorry, I know I've talked about this before. You, like, on one hand, and maybe it's different for you younger guys. I don't know what you guys were taught, but on one hand they were said you got to stand up for yourself. On the other hand, they were saying don't use violence. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but that's how else do you stand up for yourself? If some guy is more popular than you and he's making fun of you, how do you stand up for yourself besides using violence? That's it. That's all that works. And what if the guy is actually physically bullying you? And they say, oh, well, you have to be assertive. It's like, okay, well, if you try to be assertive with a bully, you are going to get your ass kicked, okay? You are going to get fucked up and humiliated and made fun of more. Because bullies instinctively can tell who they can pick on. They can instinctively tell who's going to be the pushover target. And they just can sense it. They can sense it. If you're scared or intimidated, they can sense it. And so what do you do? What do you do? And I think the best thing is to do nothing. I think the best thing to do, and I know I've talked about it before. If somebody, is insulting you or whatever, or causing you drama, walk away, disengage, and avoid them. If you are in a situation where it is impossible to avoid them, then do not respond. Be like Jesus in front of Pontius Pilate. Just stay silent. Say nothing. Just sit there. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to give you some shit like people are then going to leave you alone or people then are going to respect you. It's not about that. It's not about that. If they leave you, if people are, I hope that nobody, that they do leave you alone. But they might not. And if they respect you, great, but they probably won't. But you know what? You don't necessarily need them to leave you alone, and you certainly don't need their respect. You just need to survive and endure. And it's all impermanent. Endure it. That's the hand you were dealt. Move on. Live for another day. So yeah, Casey's getting, and like I say, if you're in a relationship, again, if somebody's being unreasonable or aggressive or rude, then just don't engage with them. Don't engage with them. That's probably, obviously there are going to be exceptions. There are going to be times where that's not realistic, but I think as a rule of thumb, it's good, and I think Casey's on the right track here.
Get baited into arguments. I'm not going to waste mental energy or mental bandwidth on bullshit, and that girl will get a sense of that too. You will get a woman's best behavior and genuine desire when you carry yourself as if you're a man who needs to be respected because you respect yourself.
Yes!
You see, it starts at
there you go, Casey. Very good. I think Casey and I agree on more than maybe I realized.
The top. There's a lot of talk regarding guys who want to have great relationships, and there's a lot of talk about the screwed up issues between men and women, but I'm going to let everybody in on a little secret. It starts with you as an individual, and it starts with you as a man at the top. You need to realize that who is in your life right now is a byproduct of who you became. If you have a screwed up social circle right now, it's because you yourself have become screwed up. If you've attracted the wrong women in the past in your dating life, it is because you as an individual are screwed up. If you have done anything in your life that got you to a point where you don't want to be today, it's because you failed.
Well, that's okay. The last thing he said is just bullshit. Just ignore that. What he said about the social circle and the women, I don't know. I would have to know the person. I think it's just too broad for me to say it. I would say that if you find yourself like continually dating the same type of person, whether you're man or woman, whether you're gay or straight, then maybe you need to see what kind of people you're pursuing. Um, but certainly, I would absolutely recommend cutting out toxic people. I've talked about that before, and it doesn't even have to be total like cutting them out, cutting them off. Just minimize your, again, like I said, minimize your engagement with them. It's not always possible, I know, but insofar as it is, yeah, absolutely, I would drop it. And it's like, if you can't find people who are good company for you, then I think you're better off being alone, and not. I mean, then like look for new people. If you're somebody who needs to be around people, then look for new people, but don't keep hanging out with people who are bringing you down or making you a worse person in any way, shape, or form. And don't stay in a toxic relationship.
Nobody else. You have to get rid of this victim mentality. And
So
when you do this, you can genuinely treat women with respect. You can genuinely treat women nice. You can genuinely treat women good. And guess what? You can still hold frame and be true and be
you treat women well, not good.
authentic, because guess what? You know that you're in abundance. If you're in abundance financially, if you have your house in order, if you have your life in order, if you have your dedication and your purpose in order, if your head hits the pillow every single night and you know there's fat stacks of cash in the bank account, you have your health, you have your ambition, and you have your drive, do you think you're going to have a shortage of women?
I just want, it's like, for me, somebody like with my personality, if I knew that I had my health, tons of money and whatever, I would have a lot of anxiety about losing those things. Now, Casey's somebody who obviously is a low anxiety person, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But I think it gets to, there is kind of a problem with it. If you're like depending on things that you might not always have and that you can um, lose really at any time. So I know what Casey's saying, but let's not go too far with it. Again, Casey is, like I said, he's a low anxiety individual, and and Casey has a hard time understanding that not all people, have some of the gifts that he has, and not all people are mentally wired the same way he is. But will that person have an abundance of women? Well, again, that person will have more options. Absolutely. Absolutely, that person will have more options. Abundance of women? I don't know. Let's say it's tough to say. I don't know. I guess Casey's probably at least partially right.
I can treat women with the most amount of respect. I can treat women with a nice, caring personality and have great romantic experiences with them. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to have a genuine experience together. I'll get her best behavior, she gets my best behavior, and there's a great dynamic and relationship that's involved, but it starts with me. I understand how to position myself that way because of the success that I've achieved, because of becoming full stack, because I've actually done the work to be a man of value. So this whole aspect of masculine frame and these whole manosphere concepts that are so screwed up as to, like, you have to treat women like shit in order to get them attached, or you have to treat them like shit to get an emotional response and then all of a sudden pull back. These little boy games are so childish. They're so manipulative. And this type of stuff sounds great for guys who are 16 to 22. And then when you start to actually level up as a man and you realize just how screwed up this is, you have an entire generation right now of grown-ass men taking time out of their day to teach you how to game women. Game them. Like, just think about that for a second. This is why I had to change my messaging. This is why I had to change the way I produce content. This is why I had to change the way where I...
Well, you had to change your messaging because you realized that what you were teaching was a lie. And, Casey obviously genuinely, that's what he talks about, his mission, his purpose. He believes this shit. He's passionate about it. And whatever you think about it, whatever I think about it, I don't think much of it. So his new thing, so he's changed, but his new thing now is, as you saw from this video, is, well, instead of teaching guys how to be masculine, I'm going to teach them how to make money. I don't think that making money is going to solve all their romantic problems. I think it's a million times better advice than anything else I've seen from men, though. But another problem, and possibly the biggest problem, is how what is the success rate likely to be for guys who are interested in this? Guys who would, I mean, Casey's got what 130,000 subscribers, maybe more than that. He's got a lot of subscribers. A lot of people are watching Casey's stuff. And the people who are watching his videos, like, how many... Now, some are just never going to have the motivation to implement it. But of those who really do make a good faith effort to try to go out there and be successful, and most of his viewers won't, because most of his viewers are probably casual watchers and, whatever. But of the ones who do make that attempt, because that's what Casey says. Casey will say, well, this is only going to be for the people who really do want to go out, put it all on the line, and go out and really try to implement this shit. What is their success rate going to be? And I don't know, but my guess is it's not going to be high. If it was 1 in 5, I would be shocked that it was that high. But even let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's 1 out of 3, and I can't imagine it's going to be that high, because it's hard. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. It's hard to go out there and make money. The truth is, for most people, if you were capable of going out and making a lot of money, you probably don't need a Casey Zander to teach you how to do it. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off base. I'm not saying it's unteachable per se, but I think there's a lot to it. Is a natural. It's like that you've got that entrepreneur gene that Casey has, that his dad had, that Cole has. Whatever. Even though Casey's not that smart, he's a natural entrepreneur. But even if it is 1 out of 3, well, what happens to those other 2 out of 3 guys? Those guys are just doomed to be romantic failures. I don't think that there's nothing wrong with chasing success. Absolutely, I would encourage anybody who wants to go out there and earn a lot of money to do it. I don't think making it the be-all, end-all. I mean, it's a much more laudable goal than trying to go out and game women, sure, but I don't think it's doable for everybody. I don't think it's doable for everybody who's going to really make an effort to do it. It's hard, because it's hard. I mean, I say this as somebody who's tried and failed. And I'm not telling you not to try. I'm just saying that it needs to be understood that most people aren't going to be able to do what Casey's saying. Including most people who try to do what Casey's saying, I don't think are going to be able to do it. Casey seems to be saying anybody can do this. It's because anybody who wants to sell courses, that's how they do it. They always say anybody can do this, and they take anybody in. In fact, there was a scam I almost got caught up in, and that's how I knew it was a scam. I was in the interview or the meeting, and they were saying, yeah, if you're willing to put the time in, you're going to succeed. And I could tell by the questions that the people that people were asking that most of these people I was in the interview were like these working class, really stupid people who I knew couldn't succeed. And so they were just trying to, scam us to get us into like this pyramid scheme. And not technically, it's not a pyramid scheme, but whatever. That's beyond the scope of this video. And that's Casey's thing, because Casey's business is selling to everybody. But unfortunately, not everybody is qualified. Anyway, still, bottom line, congrats on Casey. Congrats to Casey for growing up, starting to get there. Hopefully, eventually, he'll realize that, these kind of business things are not going to work for most of his viewers. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next.